Hey, you got me, Edward?
Oh, I certainly have. How you going?
There you go. Hey, good morning.
Yeah, yeah, it is here. Good evening.
Okay, so I actually have the hosted session already ready. So did you still want to do Kansas and the Cup car?
Yeah, yeah, for sure.
Right. So I just put default weather and we'll do the starting time for the A Open race, which is 1:30.
Sure.
So I'll check that out.
Okay, so it's just under hosted, is it?
Yep. It'll be up in a minute. Here's the password when it's up.
Okay, no dramas.
Yeah. So yeah, how these normally go is I put this session up and we'll do some laps, and you're free to ask me questions as we're doing laps. I'll put down a few laps as a benchmark. Maybe I'll do a few laps. So most people want to do like hot lapping stuff, but you were saying you wanted to do long run practice, right?
Yeah, that's
And
right.
like
So,
work on tire wear.
yeah, we're running a league, and we've got a few races coming up now to the end of the season. We follow the real life calendar, at least the calendar that was proposed at the beginning of the year before everything turned to shit.
Yep.
Um, and yeah, so we've got Kansas coming up next. We're a little bit out of sync because we took an off week for our Bathurst 1000 stuff over here. So
Gotcha. Okay.
yeah, our league normally runs a lot of green flags. Like we'll have normally around about 130, 140 laps at the mile and a half tracks, and we'll normally average about only 1 to 2 cautions. So we
It's all about long run then.
it's
So
all
is it a
about long
full
run.
fuel league?
Yeah, yeah.
Okay. Um, So this is a little weird though with Kansas in particular. I haven't driven this track for a little while, and I'm not sure if typically you run the high line or the low line in the race. Um,
Yeah, I mean, it's sort
it's
of been. Yeah, go
normally
ahead,
been
sorry.
high line is normally the way to go. So we'll just assume it's the high line, but whatever we do will be applicable to every track. So this isn't going to matter too much. It's just like don't assume that it's going to be the high line just because we're practicing this.
Yeah, okay. 'Cause I've done a little bit of practice already, and like the high line and the low line seem to run very, very similar sort of
Session's up by the way now.
times.
I'm
Yeah, I'm
loading
just
in.
jumping in. Seem to run very, very similar times,
Even for the whole
but.
run?
Well, I've only done. I think it was a relatively short run that I did. I think I did like 15 laps or something. It wasn't much,
Yeah. Okay.
but the tyre wear, the right rear tyre, actually seemed to be about 4% better off running the bottom.
Yeah, that's exactly what I was kind of thinking about. And it's not only the tire wear, but also the tire heat. So when you run this high line, especially when there's a lot of people running up there, like it's a hot groove, there's more banking, you're going faster, it's a longer distance. There's a lot of reasons why it kills the tires more.
Yeah.
So we're gonna run the top lane just because this is more of a general practice for like long run stuff.
Hmm.
I'll be able to, yeah. Um, by the way, are you running your telemetry software,
Yes.
VRS?
Yeah.
All right, so I'll be able to see your data and compare that way too. So, but yeah, we'll just do a run and we'll see how your tire wear is and your fall off
Sure.
and try to find some information about that and find out how to improve. So how is your speed in general? Do you find are you a couple tenths off of people on the long run? Like, how do you think you are compared to like me or high I rating people
Um,
and the Open Series stuff.
I don't do a lot of official series. I do
Okay.
mainly league stuff. The best guy in our league has got around about a 5,500 I rating.
Yeah, that's a good benchmark for sure.
Yeah, so he's normally extremely quick in qualifying over a single lap, and on the long runs, he's normally got just a little bit of an edge over me. Over say if we're to run 60 laps, right? After that 60 laps, he might be 3 to 4 seconds up the road from me.
Right. Okay. Sounds like you got a really good benchmark then already or baseline. So
Yeah, it's him I'm trying to beat, so I've got to figure out how to get ahead of him yet.
yeah,
So,
that is also I also meant like if you're only 3 or 4 seconds off of them, that's half a tenth. So
mm.
that's really good.
um,
Um,
so with the setup of it, we run a fixed setup, which is why I asked for the iRacing standard setup for the session.
mhm.
Now, I normally try to run as high a steering ratio as I can get away with, so 16 to 1 at the mile and a half. So, my normal go to for brake bias is about 59%. Um,
Yep.
I'm not sure if that's sort of in line with what you'd recommend. Not that we do a lot of braking here anyway, but
Yeah, there's no braking at this track at all.
yeah,
But yeah, with brake bias, I don't do much fixed racing, but what you want to do is you want to use the brake bias that gets the car closer to the balance you want.
right, yep,
So with brake bias, like there's a lot of brake heating now. So if you have more front brake bias, you're going to be heating the front tires more. It's not just about handling at that particular moment, it's also how the tires heat and wear
yep,
over the course of the run.
okay,
So, that's not going to matter at this track, but yeah, it's good to run a lower brake bias if the fixed setup tends to be pretty tight.
yep,
About the steering ratio, yeah, that's good to run a 16:1 if you're comfortable with that. It doesn't matter really. I run an 8:1 at road courses and some short tracks, and I run 12:1 at most tracks.
right.
There's a lot of guys that run 16:1 everywhere in the Coke series, for example. By the way, do you watch the Coke series at all?
I do when I get a chance. It's kind of because it's on during the week and during the daytime for us. I'm usually at
Mhm.
work, but
Yeah,
occasionally I sort of catch the
yeah.
results or the highlights or something like that.
So if you know any of the drivers, like okay, so myself, I'm usually running a 12:1 ratio, but there's guys that run 16:1, and there's some guys that run 10 or 8.
Okay.
Not many people run 8 or 10, really. That's a little bit too quick. You're not
Yep.
really able to be very precise. But I used to run 8:1 a couple of years ago on a G29 wheel. By the way, what's your hardware? What are you using for a wheel?
It's a Fanatec DD1 with the Club Sport V3 pedals.
All right, yep, you definitely, well, you got as good hardware as me pretty much. I got the VRS Dark Force wheel,
Yep.
but I got G29 pedals, so
Yeah, I only recently upgraded
better
from a
pedals.
G27, so yeah, I feel your pain.
Okay. Hey, well, congrats though. That's good. You must like it a lot.
Yeah, yeah, it's a big step up, that's for sure.
Yeah. So let's do some laps now.
Sure.
We'll do the Kansas Oval. Do you guys just run the standard fixed setups or Kansas Oval?
Yeah, yeah,
As I get this open setup now, which I don't even know why they're doing it. It's not very fast. But yeah.
yeah.
Anyway, here, let me just share this to you just to make sure we're on the same one, because I've run into the problem where I do a whole coaching session, the guys on a different setup from me. So now I just make sure to share the setup to make sure we're on the
Yeah,
same one.
no problems. Where are we? Shared sets.
So it's 10:1 ratio. I'm going to switch to 12. You can do your 16.
Yep.
The only downside to us running different steering ratios is we won't be able to directly compare telemetry for steering
We'll tell you what.
angle.
We'll run the same ratio. I'll run a 12 if you're going to run a 12.
Well, I'll run a 14 if you want to
Okay.
bring it down,
Yep.
unless you're comfortable with the 12. If you're comfortable with a 12, that's ideal.
Yeah, let's run the 12. I'm sure I can figure it out.
Okay, sure. All right. Just keep in mind your force feedback is going to be stronger,
Yeah.
so change that if you need. I'm actually going to go all the way down to 56 newton meters. Actually, I'll do 60. All right, so from here, it would be nice if we would run laps together, but the thing is with the draft, it kind of is gonna obfuscate
Yeah.
whatever that word is.
Yeah, it'll
It's gonna
mess with
like
it.
hide.
Yeah.
It's gonna hide what our actual pace is. So
Yeah.
let's just get on track and we'll go apart from each other.
Yeah,
Okay.
sure.
So I'm gonna run the high line the whole time.
Yep.
I know it's faster to run the bottom for a few laps, but just so we're doing the same thing, let's just run the high line. So let's just be a few seconds apart. You can leave now. That's
Yeah.
fine.
No worries.
And we'll run this high line, which may or may not be good. Again, I can't emphasize that enough. So you can't just test it by yourself, because what happens is in the race, there's going to be more rubber laid down on the top groove, right?
Yeah.
So what's going to end up happening is the top groove's probably going to get better in the race. So yeah, obviously full throttle for a while. I'm just going to run this top groove.
Yeah. So from sort of my perspective with these tracks that can go flat out around initially, I kind of almost
start lifting earlier, you mean?
Yeah. So quite often, some of the tracks that I think we're running flat out around the first couple of laps, I'll be just cracking the throttle a little bit just to try and save the rubber in those early laps. Is that something that anyone does? Does that make a difference? I don't really understand the high racing tyre what is what to do.
In the Coke series, I'm a guy that is the opposite of that. I just push as hard as I can, pretty much.
Yep.
Now, as hard as I can doesn't mean I'm using the tires. Okay, the optimal grip level, like hitting the most out of the tires, is also just under the limit where you would start building up a lot of tire heat and wear. Okay, so you can't, if you're driving right, you don't really abuse the tires. So it's not really that beneficial to save tires. I don't do that at all with tire saving. I just make sure I don't overdrive.
Okay.
Now, the reason for that is because it's more about tire heat than tire wear. All right, so if you're saving tires, the main benefit is you're not building up as much tire heat.
Okay.
So what that's going to do is you're going to be faster once you start going, like pushing again. But then after a few laps, you'll kind of reach an equilibrium where you would have been otherwise.
Okay. So, and one of the things that we sort of discovered, or think we've discovered anyway, especially
That's a good way of putting it.
Yeah.
I think you've discovered, that's the struggle.
the V7 tyre, you seem to be able to pull it off a little bit more. Like, say for example, it does get hot, a couple of laps of gentle driving can almost bring it back. Is that
Yeah.
your experience?
Yep. Yeah, that's true. A couple laps of normal driving will bring it back in the same way, though. It's always more optimal to just drive just barely under the limit of the tire, like the absolute. Like, I'm not even talking about running slow. It's like you can run right on the tire limit for a lap, later on into the run, and you'll run the same speed as if you just drove a little bit under the limit. Just because of how the tire heat works, not only lap to lap, but even corner to corner or through the corner. So, point is, like, if you drive in really hard and you slide tires, you're not going to be able to get through the center or exit the corner very well. So yeah, I wouldn't focus too much on saving tires. Like, you can run, if you're behind somebody and you can't go anywhere, that's a good time to save some tire heat in preparation for making a move on somebody.
And in terms of a track like this, which is high groove, you get most of the guys running, most of the guys running up in the high groove all the time. The only way, obviously, to go around them is to try and be so on the bottom, but quite often you find that at this track in particular, you're unable to.
By the way, I'm lifting a little bit now.
Yeah, what do you sort of recommend for that?
For passing?
Yeah.
So if someone's a lot slower than you, you can probably just pass them on the low line, or they'll let you go. Now, your goal should be to get side by side with them on entry to the corner. So if you can get a run on them on exit and then get side by side with them, you can just drive it in harder than them and slide up in front of them. Now, that's something you got to practice a lot. Okay, it's good to have a little sparring partner to do that. Maybe after we're done our run, I'll just show you what I mean by that. But it's the slide job, as you might have heard.
Yes. Slide. I'm used to it.
So you can do that at this track. That's pretty much the only way to pass somebody that's driving well on the high line.
So I'm starting to get a little bit of movement in the rear end now. I'm starting to get a little bit loose.
Yep. So how you manage loose versus tight isn't just in your steering wheel, it's also in your throttle. So when you're tight, you want to lift off fully and then get right back on it. But when you're loose, you want to keep a bit of hard throttle there the whole time.
Okay.
The reason for that is because when you're making weight transfers, you can shock the tires, especially the rear tires. So you kind of want to do that when the car's tight because it helps you turn. When you lift off completely, it'll put a lot of weight forward. But that's good for when you're tight, but when you're loose, you don't want to do that. So what I'm doing, I'm just doing a lot of hard throttle through the corner at this point. Half throttle, and then I'll squeeze back into it. If I get a little bit loose on exit, I'll lift back off to 3/4, you know? It's just maintaining that level of grip for your tires.
I've just started doing the same. It's definitely working. It's much nicer to sit in the rear.
Yep. So that's what you want to do. That's a good rule of thumb for tight versus loose. Interesting, the setup is pretty loose though.
Yeah, it's actually really nice the way they've done the most recent round of fixed seats. I think a lot looser than generally everybody can have.
I was kind of hoping we would have a tight setup because it's easier to help people improve on the tight setup because most people just overturn the wheel way too much. So that might not be a problem with you with this setup since it's a loose setup, but just like as a rule of thumb, most people turn the wheel too much, so just make sure you're turning the wheel as little as possible. That's why you're running the 16:1, because it naturally helps you turn the wheel less.
I tend to find as well, like, you know, running up behind somebody, car's on quick. You know,
Yeah. Yep. Yeah, that's why I usually run this. I make sure the setup stays a little bit loose in testing in preparation for races when I'm working on my own setup. So that'll be more balanced in the pack. So it is tightening up a little bit for me now. So now I'm kind of trending more towards having that quick let off of the throttle completely on entry. Just whenever I'm feeling tight, I just let off completely and then get back on it. I'm kind of doing a combination of the two right now though.
Yeah,
where I'm letting off. Yep. Yeah, I'm loose on exit through the center, but I'm tight on entry, so I'm lifting fully on entry, and then I squeeze back into it when I get back on the throttle. Does that make sense?
Yes.
So then I'm making the car looser when it's tight, and tighter when it's loose. With the throttle. Probably do a 30-lap run. That's usually enough to see tire wear. And honestly, 20 laps is normally enough, but we'll do 30. And I'm kind of pulling you that 10th a lap that you were thinking, so that's perfect. This will be a really good benchmark. You can see the differences. So have you been practicing this track?
I've practiced it a little bit the last few days. I haven't had a huge amount of time, but it's actually a week, over a week until this race happens, so I'll look at doing a little bit over that time.
Yep. No, I was just interested to know whether or not you just jumped into this session without having driven the track much.
Oh yeah, I did about 30 laps yesterday.
Okay. That's good, at least you're warmed up.
Yeah,
That's good for me though, to be able to tell if you're just like if you're losing at half a tenth to a tenth a lap because you're not warmed up, or if it's because you're driving, right? That matters a lot. Car feels really balanced right now. So with me, I'm more of an open series driver, so my driving style is geared towards an optimal setup. Yeah. All right. So with fixed, it's not that like I'm not doing it right now, but like I have to adapt how I drive. Because normally I build a setup to drive around the way I'm driving, and I believe the way I'm driving is optimal. But when I'm driving a fixed setup, you kind of have to drive it different. So that's why I'm talking about how you're changing the throttle a lot and stuff, right? You're having to drive around the setup.
Yeah.
But the same's the case with open setups, because like even with a perfect open setup, it's going to swing loose and tight through the run at different points.
Yeah, that's the thing that I always find. I mean, I had a few guys that tried to build setups a while ago. You've never seen a guy build a car so fast. It's just brutal.
use VRS data packs?
The data packs, not really, because we haven't. Usually they're a bit out of sync with what we're doing in the league.
Right.
We
Yeah.
do use the telemetry quite a lot. I've got other teammates and that sort of
Okay,
thing.
cool. Awesome.
But yeah, that's generally what we use the data for.
Did I see you have a dedicated subscription instead of the competitive one? Or maybe that was wrong.
I can't even remember. I know I haven't got access to all the data packs.
Yeah, so you got the dedicated one. Aren't you limited with your telemetry usage then?
I don't think. I think it's the level below that where you can use telemetry.
Okay.
I'm gonna try to hopefully get the guys, one of the works with us on the team, arranges and sponsors and stuff like that to try and plug up for some higher level VRS memberships and get hopefully better.
It's cool you got a organized team though that'll do that.
Yeah, it's definitely easy to play like that.
So what I'm doing right now is the car's still a little bit loose, so I'm with my line anyway. I already told you what I'm doing with my throttle, but with my line, I'm making sure I'm staying off of that seam. So I'm getting close to the seam because that's the fastest line. But if you cross the seam, that gets you loose, right? You know how like banking transitions tend to loosen you up a lot.
Yeah.
So I'm just making sure I'm not crossing it.
Yeah, that's good info. I didn't do this separation too much. So I should change
Oh yeah.
everything.
Yep. Well, we'll have a look at some of my faster laps here and have a look at your faster laps. And we'll compare the difference and you'll see what I mean with the seam, how I'm just like barely staying above it. Right, that's my guide for the line. But if the car was tight, I would be using the seam more, trying to drive my left side tires on it to help the car turn. And that's the case with every track with progressive banking. Okay, so there's like Las Vegas, Kansas, Homestead, and New Hampshire, and even tracks that there's even tracks that have like when you get closer to the line, like the bottom line, like the yellow line on the bottom of the track, there might be a little bit of banking fall off right before you get to the apron, so you can even use that to help turn a tight car. And that's just stuff you can kind of feel. Like for example, Atlanta, you want your left side tires right on that line in 3 and 4 because it helps you turn the car because it's a little bit of a banking transition. These are a lot of things you can use to drive around a tight or a loose car. Is how you use these banking transitions.
Big one that I struggle with is New Texas, with turns 1 and 2 there. Whatever reason, you can't set up a proper line for it, so it just pushes
I
up
hate
the
it too,
tracks.
man. I hate it too.
Yeah, one of my teammates is actually really good there. Like, he picked it up like straight away. I was like, what are you doing that's different to me? Like,
There's no banking transitions there, so you can't really use it. Except there's like a little bit of a bump on entry to turn 1 that you can kind of use to kick the car sideways a little bit. So if the car's tight, that kind of helps you there. Alright, I think we're doing one more lap after this one, right?
yeah, I'm on 21.
Alright, so we'll do 30 and then we'll have a look. Alright, so I'm going to slow down slowly after I cross the line. Make sure I don't scrub any tires because I want to look at tire wear. So I tend to save the right front relative to other people and burn the right rear. Now I'm pretty much the same as like most Coke series drivers, but compared to like people in the 3 to 5,000 I rating range, I normally save right front, burn right rear. It's a standard thing, so I kind of expect to see the same thing here.
Yeah, I've actually been burning the right rear too. It's down to 65%.
Yeah, mine's 60,
Wow. Okay.
but that's because it's a loose setup.
Yep.
Right front 77. Is yours worse than that?
70. Yep.
70 on the right front.
Yep.
So
Yep.
yeah, you're definitely like that's quite a big difference. So
Yeah.
you're definitely burning the right front tire. Tire temps, I don't know if like tire temps might be a little different. It'll depend on how we slowed down. But my hottest temperature on the right front is 334.
Okay, I'm gonna have to change to Fahrenheit. Hold on.
Oh yeah, yeah.
Yeah.
Here, okay, it's 168 Celsius and 160 on the right rear.
Okay, so I'm
So
back in
what
Fahrenheit
was
now. So
yours?
yeah, 337
Okay.
on the front
Yeah.
and on the right front, and 310 on the right rear.
Okay, so I'm 334 right front, 319 right rear. So
Okay.
again, I'm building up more tire heat on the right rear and not as much on the right front.
Yeah.
So even though the car's loose, there's more tire heat on the right front. And that's true for a couple reasons. So the first reason is there's a bit more camber on the right front. All right. And the second reason is if you look on the chassis tab, I don't know how much you work on the setups at all, but you can see how there's more corner weight on the right front compared
Okay.
to the
Yep.
right rear. Do you
Yep.
see that? So there's just generally more weight on the right front tires, so there'll be more heat buildup
Yep.
overall.
Okay.
So no matter what, you're always going to have more heat buildup on the right front tire. I mean, unless you're sliding around and stuff, right?
Yeah. Yep.
But so like even for a loose car, it's still better to have my type of tire wear.
Mhm.
Even though it seems like we're burning the right rear more, I burned it even more than you,
Yeah.
but I'm turning better lap times at the end, and that's just because the right front tire gets so hot,
Yep.
and tire heat equals slow.
Yes.
So the less
Especially on the
tire
right
heat you can
front.
build up, the better. Yeah.
Yeah.
Well, the right front's the hottest one, so if you go even hotter than that, it becomes proportionally worse.
Yeah.
So that's the main thing. All right, so I was hitting some nines at the end, and you were hitting some ones and flats.
Yeah.
Okay. So let's look at one of your faster laps. I'm gonna look at your lap 29. You can watch it with me. Let me know if you messed up at all.
I
First of
did.
all, you're not crossing
Yeah.
the.
I did rub the wall. I think twice, but I mean they weren't big rubs.
Okay. Well, this was your best lap out of the last 10 or so.
Yeah.
First of all, you're not crossing the tri-oval. I didn't think to mention that, but
No.
you should cross the tri-oval. It's worth a couple hundreds.
Okay. Yep.
So that's part of it.
Attention spectators. When the driver opens the silver
All
Aston
right.
Martin license plate VNT 216
So I like your line in
immediately
one,
discovers the
1 and 2,
wrong in the car.
and you're staying off of that seam. That looks pretty good.
VNT 216
You're not doing
and
much of a diamond, and you're not quite using up the whole track.
Yeah, that's something I struggle with getting up right next to the wall because I've got a wide-ish monitor. It's not an ultra wide by any stretch, but it's only a single.
Yeah. Well,
Um,
your exit of 4 was really good. You got right to the wall there.
yeah, I wouldn't do that lap after lap. We'll see.
Okay. So, yeah, the main things I'm noticing though, like this is the easiest time you'll ever find is getting right up to the wall on entry to the corners, okay?
Okay. Yep.
You don't have to worry too much about the exit. That's a lot of skill that's built up, but you're just on a straightaway on entry to the turn, so you get to be right to the wall.
Yep.
You left 3 or 4 feet on entry to one,
Wow. Okay.
and you left a lot more than that on entry to three. So you
Right.
want to be right on where the safer barrier starts. You want to be right there.
Okay. Yep. Makes
So you can
sense.
kind of see, like, if you compare to the seam, it's like you're not arcing into the turn at all, right? You kind of have the same distance from the seam the whole way around the corner.
Yep.
So what you want to do is do a bit of a diamond where you drive in from the wall. You
Mhm.
want to turn in, you can carry more speed when you do this. So you want to drive in, get close to the seam on entry to both corners,
Yeah.
and then come up a little bit in the center, and then you cut it back down a little bit on exit of the seam. Okay.
Okay.
Or exit of the corner, real
Yeah.
close to the seam. So that'll allow you to carry a bit more speed through the corner. Um, Now, when it comes to tire wear, you're simply turning the wheel too much.
Okay.
And if you're doing that with a loose setup, you're definitely doing that even worse with a tight setup. All
Yeah.
right. So, very, very important thing to do. I'll show you on telemetry what that looks like as well.
Okay.
Uh,
Let me just sorry, probably open up my.
so I just want to show you my lap though. So just
Oh,
have a
okay.
look at my last lap and yeah, we're going to look at your telemetry there.
Sorry,
Or,
how am I looking at your telemetry? Sorry.
I thought you said you were going to look at something. So
Oh, yeah,
what
yeah,
were
yeah.
you
I was
just
going
looking
to
at?
get my telemetry.
Yeah.
Um,
So I'll just actually do that right now. I'll publish this data to our one-on-one session.
okay.
So just a second, I'll get that up. But have a look at my lap while I'm doing that. Just watch my last lap. So that was a
Okay.
pretty good lap. I had a
Yeah.
95.
Okay.
So, this is just where there's an extra, 700s or so in my line.
So your final lap.
Yep.
Oh, I see what
Okay,
you mean.
my
Yep.
with what's that?
The diamond.
Using the whole track or the
Yep.
diamond?
Yep.
Okay. Yeah.
Is that something that's specific to here, or is this something that obviously not laying the high line everywhere, but is this something that a technique that works on most of the mile and a half, or is this specific to
Not the
you?
diamond part. That'll depend on other tracks, but the whole entering from the wall is very important. You want to do that everywhere.
Okay.
There's nowhere that you don't want to be right next to the wall on entry. You can see I'm just leaving a lot less space compared to you.
Yeah.
Entry to one, I'm leaving, maybe it's just a foot or two less than you. But entry to three, you'll notice I'm a lot closer to the wall. But yeah, just doing a bit of a diamond and cutting the exit a little bit more so I can carry more speed on straightaways.
Yeah.
But you can see I'm just a lot closer to the wall on entry
Yes.
corners.
Yeah.
I'm being a little safe. Like if I did a lot of practice here for a Coke race, I'd be a little bit more confident and I'd be a little bit closer to the walls. Okay, I'll probably get it another foot closer. I was just being kind of cautious because we were talking and also it's my first time on this track in a while.
Yeah.
So I just didn't want to mess up the run. I was being a little conservative, but you can still see what I'm doing relative to you. Is I'm starting off higher and then getting lower into the corner and then doing a bit of a diamond. And the whole point of that is to carry more speed on entry and carry more speed on exit.
And do you sacrifice a little bit in that sort of at the top of that diamond? I imagine you have to.
Maybe just a little bit, but probably less than you think.
Okay.
But we'll have a look at the time trace as well on our data, and you'll probably see that most of the time gain is from the entry and exit. Might even just be the entry, honestly, because I have worse tire wear than you on the right rear, so my exit's probably hurting. I'm probably gaining most of my time entry. Have a look at my onboard too. You can just see how little I'm turning the wheel.
Will do.
We'll look at this on the telemetry too, but you can see it's just very little amount of steering. And you'll probably notice that most of my steering angle, I'm turning the most on entry to the corner, and then once I get on throttle, I hardly turn the wheel. That's because I'm on the rear tires. I'm on the rear tires all the way from the point where I get on throttle all the way through the exit. And that's the case not only for loose setups, but even if the car's tight, I'm doing the same thing, where I'm not turning nearly as much as I would be on entry as I'm getting on the brakes or letting off.
Yeah. Okay.
So you
And
want to be using the front tires on entry and then the rears center off.
okay, so when you're sort of in a train of cars, you're up in there behind somebody, and the car's sort of starting to push a little bit, and of course, being right up against the wall, you haven't got a lot of room to a lot of room for error. You know, obviously you're still trying to use as little wheel as possible, but the car's pushing, so that'd be something that you'd be managing via the throttle rather than the wheel.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So
Okay.
when the car's tight, when it's pushing, what you're, if you think about it, what you're feeling is the limit of the front tires. So you're already there. You don't want to turn anymore,
Yeah.
right?
Mhm.
So if you're already pushing, you got to turn less from that point,
Okay.
which is pretty counterintuitive, but
Yeah.
and it's really hard to get that into a habit. But if you're already tight, it's already time to turn the wheel less.
Yeah.
So when you're behind somebody, I'll probably turn the wheel like a couple degrees less. That's not really something I'm doing intentionally. It's just because the feel and the force feedback and the sound of the tires and stuff, I know I'm closer to the limit of the tires.
Okay.
If you have less downforce, you have to turn the wheel less.
Yeah.
Also, if you're going a little bit slower, then again, yeah, I guess if you're going slower in the corner, it might allow you to turn the wheel more. Because generally, the slower you go, the more you turn the wheel in the corners.
Yeah.
Now, that doesn't mean on the as the run goes on, you turn the wheel more. It's kind of the opposite because as the run goes on, um, the tire has less available slip angle, kind of.
Mhm.
So you kind of turn the wheel a little bit less as the run goes on, or at least keep it consistent.
Okay, that makes a lot of sense. That's going to be hard to get into my head, I think. But I think if I, okay, I'll try to learn that. But that's, yeah,
Yeah.
like you say, it's a
That,
bit counterintuitive when you're in the moment.
I'll go out on a limb here and say I bet you are more off of that 5,000 I rating guy when the car is tight relative to when the car is loose. Would that be true?
That'd probably be true. Yeah.
Yeah, because
Yeah.
just the way I'm seeing in your driving, you seem to drive a loose car pretty good, but you're not you're just turning the wheel too much when the car is tight.
Right.
And like this is a loose setup and you're already burning the right front off 7% more than me.
Yes. Yeah.
So when the car is tight, it's probably even worse than that. So I
Yeah.
think that's your biggest thing to look towards and work on.
Mhm.
All right, let me transition to my other monitor here and have a look at telemetry. So what I'm going to do, I'm going to publish my data to your to you. So in the same way you can look at a teammate's data, you'll be able to look at my data, and you'll
Okay.
always have this available if you want.
Okay. Beautiful.
So I'm going to publish now, and you should be able to see like instead of a teammate, it'll say like one-on-one with Keegan.
Is that under one-on-one sessions, or will that pop up under teams?
It'll be in the same way you would select a teammate's data. You
Okay.
can select my data.
Right.
So you can select your name when you're in driving stats. You can select your name, and you'll be able to scroll down to one-on-one with Keegan. Or maybe that's not even the workflow. Do you ever click on your name and select a different driver for to see their stats
Yeah, but I
and
normally
their
do it through
telemetry?
through Teams via
Okay.
my teammates.
Okay.
But yeah, I've just figured out how to do it via the top one there. Just haven't. Yeah, yours isn't quite showing up yet.
Okay, yeah, I just published it, so
Oh,
it'll take a
okay.
second probably.
Yeah.
I see it now, so you should be able to. You might have to refresh.
Okay.
So what I'm gonna do, you don't have to
Yeah, we got it.
you don't have to do this right now, because I'll just set up the telemetry and I'll just link you it. Okay, so it should be good. All right, so you can click that link and it should be uh nope, never mind, that's not gonna work. Sorry.
No,
I gotta
I've
I
got it.
gotta select
I've found you in the analyzer anyway, so I can just do it from here if you want.
oh, okay.
It's easy.
Okay. Well, otherwise you can click this link. I just selected the wrong data set.
Oh, okay.
So yeah, if we both get to the same point, I'm just compared to our lap one, first of all.
Okay.
So if you click on my link, you'll be the blue line and I'll be the red one.
Yep.
And it looks like most of our speed difference. So I've gained 300ths on you through the trioval.
Yeah.
That was most, and then also to end the lap. So pretty much the only speed difference for lap one was the tri-oval.
Okay. And I notice our wheel demand at that point's fairly similar as well. So I imagine
Yep,
I get heavier on the wheel as the run goes on, and you don't.
right. So the reason for that is because we're off the limit of the tires. So because it's easily full throttle,
Mm-hmm.
so there's no way to even turn the wheel more. There's no
Yep.
way to do it. You'll just turn the wheel. You'll just go down the track if you turn more.
Yep.
So let's just keep hitting the arrows on the top right there and keep going through the laps. So like lap two, lap three, lap four, and I'm just noticing like there's no real difference in our driving. The main difference in speed comes from a little bit the exit of the corner where I kind of cut down a little bit more than you,
Mm-hmm.
but also just the tri-oval. I'd say I'm gaining 3 or 4 hundredths a lap on you, just cutting the tri-oval.
Yeah.
Okay. So you should start doing that. All right. So I'm gonna go to lap. Let's go to lap. I want to pick one of your good laps, or one of your better laps. So let's do lap 15, where you
15.
hit an 86. And I'll go to my lap 15. I hit an 81. So a pretty similar lap, but you can see this is the point where we start having a difference in our steering angles.
Yeah, definitely.
So you'll notice what I was saying, where I use quite a bit of steering angle on entry, but then I use a lot less through the center and exit.
Yeah.
Um, I'm wheeling the car a lot more. Now I'm carrying a bit more speed through the corner than you. Also, keep in mind, I've been driving harder than you, and I pulled away like a second.
Yep.
So I've used up the right rear tire. That's why my right rear is worse than yours. It's just
Okay.
because I'm carrying more speed on exit and
Yep.
pushing the car harder. Um, and so for that reason, I'm a little bit looser than you at this point, and you can see how much I'm moving the wheel relative to you on exit of the corner.
Yeah, sure. And also noticing just on the throttle, you're getting completely out for a moment, whereas I'm not. Basically,
Yep.
you're
Now
back at full throttle before I am.
remember how I was saying I'm getting to the point at this point, I was getting to the point where it was getting tight on entry, but then loose on exit.
Mm-hmm.
So you can see um, I'm doing the full lift on entry to the corner just to slow the car down. So instead, because what you're doing to slow the car down is you're staying a little bit over the limit of the front tires.
Mm-hmm.
That's generating friction and heat.
Okay.
And what's slowing the car down for you is that friction in the front tires instead of just
Right.
letting off the throttle.
I understand. Yeah.
So it's a small detail, but that's what's leading towards you needing to turn a little bit more than me,
Right.
or naturally turning the wheel a little bit more, scrubbing the tires off a bit, and slowing the car down a different way than me.
Yep.
That's why I'm letting off fully.
Okay.
I kind of stopped doing that because it started getting loose again. I think I stopped. Actually, I'll have to look at the later laps. But so yeah, that's the main difference is me letting off fully. I'm driving in a little bit harder than you two, though. So you
The
can
funny
see
thing is,
it,
I didn't actually even identify the fact that the car was getting tight. For me, all I was noticing is sort of exit loose. I wasn't really noticing it feeling tight on the entry. So that's, the fact that we're able to sort of pick that up from the data is really useful because it's not something that I was really conscious of.
yeah, the thing is, feeling tight. I shouldn't have said it was tight. Honestly, it was perfectly balanced to me, but perfectly balanced means you're abusing the right front tire.
Okay,
That's just the car naturally abuses the right front tire. So I know if the car is perfectly balanced, I need to be taking care of the right front tire.
right,
So,
I'm with you.
when I say it's tight, like a little bit tight probably means very well balanced. Um, like when we make a qualifying setup, it's absolutely plowing tight. That's just because it's the fastest way to do it, but it won't work in a race setup.
Mm. Yeah, that surprises me actually. I would have thought it would be the other way, but no, that's interesting.
So let's look later on. So let's look at that lap 29.
Okay,
So you hit an 02 and I hit a 99. So more of the same. As the run's going on, you're getting tighter and tighter, and you're building up more and more steering angle.
Yeah.
So it's just a, and you can see I'm actually, and also our throttle traces are even more different.
Yeah, wildly different.
So it's to the point where I'm driving in much harder than you and letting off fully. Uh, so you can see I'm gaining a lot of time on entry to the corners, like I
Yeah,
was saying,
hugely.
and also a bit on exit.
Yeah. And of course, that's going to be down partially to the fact that you're turning in from closer to the wall, and also due to your throttle use. Yeah.
On entry to the corners, most of it's just the line
Yep.
plus the throttle,
Yep.
yes.
Okay. I'm with you.
So yeah, honestly, this lap, like you're really not far off at this point. Most of your speed difference, probably half of your speed difference, is just not cutting the tri-oval.
Okay.
So the way you're driving right now probably isn't too detrimental with this setup. So burning the right front off and having a better right rear tire, it's probably as good or maybe even better for the long run.
Mhm.
But you gave up a bit on the short run
Yeah.
when the car was a bit tighter.
Yeah.
Um, so probably if I did this run again, I would save the right front tire, or I would save the right rear tire a little bit more,
Mhm.
and I would do that by not using the seam as much on exit of the corner because I was getting a little bit loose here and there the first 10 to 15 laps, and then I kind of smartened up and figured it out a little bit more.
Yeah.
But basically, what I'm telling you is the way you're driving is pretty good. You're just giving up a little bit of speed on the short run. But if your car was tighter, you would be a lot farther off, I think.
Yeah. Yeah. Agreed.
Are you able to go to the advanced telemetry mode, or maybe you're on the dedicated subscription and it won't let
Yeah.
you?
I
But
don't know about the advanced telemetry. I'm not sure what that is.
okay. So on the top right, there's a little graph icon, like a little
Okay.
line.
Yeah. I see it. Yeah.
You can click on that.
Yeah. No, I haven't got access to that.
Okay. So I'll just show you. I'll just send you a little screenshot
Okay.
just to give you an idea. This isn't Fahrenheit, but here's a graph of our tire temps on the last lap, or that lap we were just looking at.
Okay.
So,
Oh wow.
um,
I had no
so
idea about
it's
this advanced telemetry. This is great.
yeah. So yeah, if you get the competitive subscription, it'll
Yeah.
work for you. But yeah, we got like tire temperatures, ride heights, bunch of other stuff.
Yeah.
Um, I only really use ride heights and tire temps.
Yeah.
So yeah, my point was like you're just turning the wheel more at that point, especially in 3 and 4, and you're, almost 60 degrees different from me.
Yeah.
But I'll show you the right rear tire. We'll just look at the graph.
Yeah.
Um, I was actually the same as you through 3 and 4, but let's just close Discord. Yeah, I did. I was the same as you through 3 and 4, but I actually burned the right rear off a bit through 1 and 2
Yeah.
compared to you. So, as expected, I'm using the right rear tire more than you.
Yeah. Yeah.
Um,
Which makes perfect sense given what we've seen so far.
yep, definitely. All right, so yeah, I guess main points just to summarize all that. Your line could use some work for Kansas. That's half of your speed right there.
Mhm.
Just getting up closer to the wall, both entry and exit if you can. Cut the tri-oval every lap. There's no reason not to. It's very easily flat through there. There's
Mhm.
no abuse of the tires or anything. Honestly, it might even be better for tire wear or tire heat because there's less banking. Actually, let me have a look at that. Let's see here. Uh, it's about the same. Uh, and besides that, so you'll want to turn the wheel less, especially when the car is tight. That's going to be worth a lot of speed for you,
Mhm.
especially on the long run for a tight setup. You can accomplish that. First of all, it's going to be a habit, so it's kind of hard to do. Um, the way I feel it in the wheel, the way I would describe it, and you can probably feel the same thing because you have a direct drive. Um, the more you turn the wheel, the more force you'll feel
Mm-hmm.
until a point. Okay. So most people keep turning the wheel until they start feeling less force because beyond that point, you're sliding the front tire and it's providing less grip and less resistance on the steering wheel for you,
Mm-hmm.
right? So what I'm doing is I build up until the point where it's maximum. Okay.
Yeah.
Now that's hard because you don't really have the information. It's kind of hard to know where that maximum force is. So that's where the buildup of a habit and like a sixth sense of how much grip you have uh, comes into play.
Okay.
But yeah, my point would be instead of turning the wheel until the point where you start losing grip, you turn the wheel until the point where you hit the maximum grip or
Yep.
just below it.
Okay.
So, again, you have less information because you don't really know where that point is if you never get to it, right? Um, but that's where the skill comes in, and that's what you got to work towards. So, but in order to naturally do that more, maybe you'll do better with a 16-to-1 ratio anyway. I'm not sure. Honestly, I think that's kind of more of a placebo effect, especially when you have a good wheel.
Mm-hmm.
It's not really going to make a very big difference because you're acting on force feedback, not necessarily just how much you're turning,
Yep.
right?
Yep.
So I don't think the ratio is going to make a big difference, but I'm not telling you not to run 16-to-1 because it's a good ratio. A lot of people use it. Uh, but just lifting off when the car is, if you're not loose on entry, you want to lift fully, probably,
Okay. Yep.
and
Good
then
rule of
squeeze
thumb.
back into it. Yeah. Yeah, so that's pretty much it for that. If you have any more questions, we can talk about some stuff. Otherwise, maybe we can do a little bit of that slide job practice. I'll show you what I mean
Yeah. Yeah. Okay. Let's
for
go out and
slide
give that a
jobs.
shot. That sounds fun.
Okay. All right, cool. So it's going to be a little weird because we have fresh tires.
Yeah.
So anyway, I'm loaded on the track.
Okay.
First few laps, it won't work too well because we're full throttle. But I'll just show you what I mean. What I mean. Losing my voice for some reason.
Saturday night.
Can't talk for an hour straight, I guess. So I'll let you catch up here. So you get ahead of me, and I will just, what I kind of want to do for like a bit of a drill is just let me catch up to you. I'll be able to make a move. Just make sure we're side by side completely on entry to the corner. So, if I don't have much of a run, just crack the throttle a little bit.
Inside.
So I want to be side by side perfectly. Just to
Still
show you what I
inside.
mean.
Inside clear.
So it's 3 and 4 where you actually make this move work better. So I would enter
Still
like
there.
this,
Clear.
and
Good
then
job.
just come up the track.
So you just essentially being on new tyres, and that was just a full throttle change of mind.
That was full throttle.
Yep.
Honestly, we were just doing some practice runs, but like you can drive down here full throttle at this point, and it's way faster. So that's what you'll be doing in your race.
Yep.
But just to give you a few practice runs before we have worse tire wear, I'll let you to my inside. Cut the tri-oval here.
Quarter outside.
And enter in the middle
Quarter
just for
outside.
practice here. Enter in the middle and then slide up in front of me once you clear me.
Still outside. Clear up top.
There you go. So don't turn right like that.
Working the
Yeah,
bottom.
that sucked.
There.
Yeah.
That's a good job.
Okay, let's restart. So you want it to be a consistent arc, okay? So you can even practice this line by yourself.
Yeah.
So what I would do if you really want to prepare for this is, you can follow me, would be to just run that line that you would run for the whole run, or maybe just do 20 laps, like driving regularly, and then start practicing the slide job line. Okay. You don't need another car to practice it. So what you'll need to do is drive in really hard and lift in the center of the corner. So a smart person that sees it coming would kind of avoid it, but this is what the line would be. So it's going to feel weird with new tires because we can easily do it full throttle.
Yeah.
But it's just good to practice this line. So it's like this, right in the middle of this bottom groove, and then slowly slide up in front of the guy. You don't want to go...
They're crossing the same. So.
Yeah, yep. So whenever you hit that banking transition, you're going to feel that looseness. So that's why you want to do it really smoothly. And you want to end up just above the seam with your left side tires. You don't want to be way up near the wall. And you want to get comfortable enough to do this to the point where you can abort it. Okay, so if the guy's still on your right rear quarter panel, you can't slide up in front of him, honestly, or obviously. So you want to be able to abort it. So you want to come up and then be like, oh, never mind. Just kidding, and then let the guy have the position back, right? Yeah. So you want to be pushing the car pretty hard, but you want to leave yourself that little bit of room where you can abort it if you need to. Yeah. So that's the line you want to run, and you want to be used to that banking transition. So you want to get over that smoothly. You don't want to be on the absolute limit of the tires because you will get sideways.
Okay, you're not running full throttle, so coming back up, you are.
I am at the moment, but of course, when the tires wear out, you won't be able to.
Yeah, that's something I'm going to work on, because every time I try to put the full so far, it's getting to a bend. So,
I'm full throttle right now, so it's pretty easy to be full throttle to me. But I'm turning the wheel like a little bit less than I need to, just to make sure I'm not on the limit of the rear tires. Just a little under the limit of this. And then when you get a little bit, like you'll inevitably get a little bit sideways. You can keep full throttle, just make a little bit of a wheel correction when you're going over that transition. Also, here's something you can do. If you want to do a drill, you should be able to get sideways like this and save it easily. Shouldn't be a problem to get sideways and then save it.
I saved it the first time, but yeah, it snapped again.
So, if you want to get comfortable with that banking transition thing, you should be able to let the car get sideways and then save it easily. So, honestly, the hardest part sometimes is getting the car sideways on purpose. A lot of people have trouble with that because they don't understand, how do I spin out on purpose? Yeah. I thought it's just random, but like you should be able to easily get sideways on entry in the corner and then save it.
That's actually
that's a little.
More about this.
Yep. Yeah, the drills are really important. Like, it's not just about hitting the fastest lap time every time. You want to be confident in yourself too. So you want to be confident. If I get sideways, I'm not going to wreck the field. I'm going to save the car.
Something that's a lot easier with the G27. No chance.
Yeah.
They're starting to make it.
So, also, if you get really sideways like this, you just jam on the brakes and it straightens right out.
Yeah.
You ever do that before?
I've never
keep full
saved
throttle.
it by jamming the brakes. It's very counterintuitive.
Yeah. Try it out. Just get really sideways here, keep full throttle,
Yeah.
and then jam on the brakes. Don't let off the throttle. And you'll feel it just straighten right out.
Hey, no shit, it works.
Yep. So it's just a lot of little things like this that is also important to driving fast because you want to be confident, and if you get loose, you'll save it.
Yeah, I just wrecked.
Anyway, I'm gonna attach. I'm gonna save this replay too in case you want to go over it.
Yeah, no problem.
This will be available on that data that you can see of mine.
Okay, cool.
I'll just save the run we did. But no, man, you're starting from a good spot. there's not much to work on. It's just that steering wheel angle stuff and using the whole track up. Those are
Yeah,
two pretty easy things, honestly, once you get the habit built up.
yeah, that's awesome. Really appreciate that. Just being able to identify that is very helpful. So,
Yep.
um,
Yeah, definitely. And
yeah.
like you're able to drive a loose car pretty quick. So like you've got the car control, that's an important thing. I assume you do road course racing too. Do you do Bathurst
No, I don't
or
really get
V8
into the road course
supercars at
stuff at
all?
all. No,
No.
like the main road courses I do are when I have to drive these things on a road course, which is about as much fun as pulling teeth. But you know, you
Yeah, well,
do it
tell me
when
about it. That's what we're doing next,
yeah,
the Coke
yeah.
series.
We just had the Roval, so
Okay.
yeah, it was
What were
it's
you
fun
hitting
in a
for
way,
lap
but it
times?
sucks in another way. Sorry.
What were you hitting for lap times there?
My best lap time, I believe, was a 19.1 with the standard set, but after a few laps, it goes away to sort of
Oh yeah,
20,
you
23s,
lose 6 seconds.
24s. Yeah,
Yeah,
yeah, it was pretty bad, but yeah, managed to get second in that one in our league race. So
nice.
was
Okay,
quite,
awesome.
yeah, I was quite
Well,
happy with that.
yeah, I know 19.1's pretty good because like I know Bobby Zelensky did a 17.2 or something like that.
Yeah,
Just got right
And
back to the
he's won
garage.
every single Coke Series race on a road course so far. So
yeah, that's moving. Set up or not, that's fast.
yeah,
yeah.
we're down in the 14s with our open setup.
Well, isn't there going to be something like 6 road courses on the schedule next year, real life schedule?
Yeah, I know
Yeah,
they're adding ananother two, I think. So
yeah. Bloody Coda. I can't like honestly. I thought Sonoma was bad, but Coda's going to be horrid. and
yeah,
yeah,
I really hope we don't have to do that.
and hopefully we
Like
get Bristol
it,
in time. Bristol dirt.
right. I don't want that in the Coke series. Yeah.
Oh,
The way I
come
see
on.
it though, road courses are a free top 10 for me, but I can't win them.
Yeah,
Because like I'm way better than most guys in the Coke series at road courses, but I'm not anywhere close to the fastest ones. So
yeah. And that's the thing as well. Without, I don't know if they throw cautions for you guys in the races, but normally, of course,
yep,
iRacing doesn't. And so if someone's quicker than you, you're pretty well fucked. There's nothing you can do.
yep, yeah, that's how it is.
Yeah,
Anyway, man, yeah,
yeah,
I'll have that replay up the file if you want to download it.
yeah. Fantastic. We'll
You can
do.
get it from the data. But yeah, if you have any questions about what we were talking about, just send me a message. No problem.
Yeah, no dramas at all. I'll probably just as we go through the remaining races of the series, I might hit you up for another one because we got Martinsville and Phoenix at the end. So
Yep, sounds good.
yeah,
Those are not really tire wear tracks at all. Those are just straight up speed.
yeah,
Now, you don't want to abuse the tires, but also you can just, yeah, you can push the car pretty hard.
yeah, beautiful. All right, mate. Thanks very much for that. I'll hit you up again.
Yeah, no problem. Talk to you later, Edward.
Okay, brilliant. Thanks, Keegan.